Welcome to another edition of Debating is for Life. I am your host, Tamer Higazi, and with us today, the one, the only, downtown Jason Brown. Welcome, Jason.
Good evening, Tamer.
Good evening. And happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, I'm still celebrating.
You're such a colorful figure, so I thought I would break out my most colorful threads, which was actually gifted to me by you. And so, you know, I have to say, you're one of those friends that, in my when I was in university, I tried to get my core group of friends to wear like ritualistic robes and to put on costumes, but nobody ever wanted to do that. I didn't have to ask you twice. You love dress. You're always so colorful. I remember one time you said to me, if you find a pair of pants that you like that fits right in the right size, then get 5 of them and get them in different colors.
In every color, yeah.
Tell me about your fashion style.
I think I've stumbled through most of my life trying to find a style, but now that I've sort of gotten to a certain age where and actually I think the availability of being able to find stuff online affordably. So I think the pandemic sort of got us all into wearing very comfortable casual clothes. So I have baseball hats, I have prescription glasses, I have polo shirts and sweatpants and running shoes, but in every single solid color. So when I'm feeling green, today's a green day. If I'm feeling like rainbow colors, it's going to be rainbow colors. And I think because there's some different quotes I know about fashion. One is from Jeannie Becker, who is like an icon of Canadian. Yeah, I finally met her about Jeannie Becker about 2 years ago, and I was completely starstruck. I was face to face with her, and I remember something that she had said, a quote that was attributed to her, and she said, "Fashion is the salad dressing of life." And which I think is, a wonderful way of looking at things. There's another quote from an American, I think she's either a photographer or a designer, Diane Van Furstenberg, and her quote is, her quote is in a situation where you've dressed up, like really dressed up, and you need a second opinion on what you're wearing. And so the expression is, "I know it's too much, but is it enough?" So, yeah.
Well, everywhere you go, it's like you're a caricature. It's like they superimposed you into the scene. And so your sense of fashion is very unique, and it makes you stand out. And I know you like the spotlight, so don't even
But
pretend like.
it's also I work with young adults in circus, and I work for different theater companies, and also for a couple of music record labels doing music videos. So
Speaking of your work, it's apropos that you're wearing the green outfit with the green eyebrows and the green shirt, because I met you against a green backdrop in a green screen project. It wasn't this one, but
oh my gosh,
it was very much like this one. And
where
so
did you
you
find that?
part of what you do as a digital artist and entrepreneur is you do a lot of green screen work. And I found this on your YouTube channel or your website or one of the other.
Okay.
In any case, I met you in this kind of circumstance. Our mutual friend presented me to you as a candidate to be a lead actor in one of the film projects that you were doing. The Righteous Children, if anybody wants to look it up. What
Yeah.
was it called?
The Book of the Righteous Children.
The Book of the Righteous Children. It was an epic, herky jerky production. So tell us a little bit about your green screen career.
I always wanted to get involved in making videos, and but I knew something, and I conventionally started trying to make videos, creating sets and inviting my friends to participate. But there was always something missing, and it should have been obvious. But what was missing was green screen. And a few years ago, oh my gosh, do you know all these dancers got fired from that video?
No,
I had to replace my client did not like the dancers that she had hired.
this guy
So
looks like
all
he's never danced before in his life.
yeah. So I had to replace these guys with digital characters.
You and I have worked on green screen, like right back to, I remember when I worked at Toronto French School, and that was about 13 years ago. And we did the Language Day show. And I don't know if we used green screen, but we used projection and we created kind of a faux Pamplona, Spain on the stage where we used the entire theater audience and not just the stage. We used the aisles, the doors, the windows, and we made it look like the town of Pamplona. And you did. And we've been working on these kind of collaborations for forever, but I know that you're always doing something green screen, so I wanted to tell you what draws you to green screen specifically.
What draws me to green screen is the freedom to create worlds to situate characters in. And I'm trying to be I'm not, the greatest animator in the world, but I do enjoy creating spaces. I mean, one of my clients always refers to, oh, just put in some backgrounds. And it's not, when you're putting in backgrounds, that's like you got a photo and you put the photo in the background. I mean, that's only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to green screen. What is happening often in my compositions is that I'm actually cutting the performer out and placing them inside a world that is digital and then using a camera and shooting inside that digital world.
Right.
Sometimes like what's happening with your green screen right now is that you are just putting a background behind you, but and that's very effective. But for like depth and mostly depth, for the illusion of depth and a real dimensionality, there's slightly more advanced techniques that really situate the characters.
That's cool. Yeah, and I also know another one of things that you love to do is projection. And I know like
Yep.
I could just as well call you a projection artist. Let me show a little example of just one of the things I found on your website. But I know you've done tons of things, working with theater groups, circus acts, cultural centers. This is something I don't know if maybe I'm sure you will recall you did this. It was so cool. Check this out.
Oh yeah.
Silence of the Lambs. And so, what was that all about?
Oh, I have a story. I did a couple of gigs at this nightclub called Sea Lounge in Toronto, and that was a Halloween specific installment. But I'm not sure if it was during the Halloween one or a different one, but I was with my boss and we were in the back patio because we had projections in the back patio, projections in the front. And there was an alleyway that ran alongside the building that was part of the club and with huge windows that you could see inside the club. So as you move from the front to the back of the club through the alleyway, you could see in the club. So on the patio, a fight broke out and the fight traveled inside the building. And my boss and I started to run. So we ran alongside the alleyway, looking at the fight, which was traveling outside the building. And by the time we got to the front of the building, the guys who were fighting had reached the projector and kicked it over.
What? Oh, no.
Luckily, the projector wasn't damaged, and I don't know how that happened, but that was there were a lot of young people in that club and drinking heavily, and so
Well,
it was
I got to
There
tell
were
you, like, I ran debate tournaments in the past in various private schools where you were hired as a projectionist and came in and just added that nice. Yeah, I don't know. There's something about it. So it's almost like a ribbon or a veneer of kind of futurism. It makes the whole event seems more modern. And so when you add projection to it, but I
like
know as
salad
salad
dressing.
dressing. So again, that theme of your life. So you're more of an ornamental kind of character, right? And you enjoy embellishing or just adding to the ordinary. In any case, one of the things I've admired about your career all throughout, and I always tell you this every time I see you, because I've dabbled with entrepreneurship my entire career, and I've kind of been in and out of it, and mostly in it, to be honest. But sometimes I've been pulled back to work for the man, to work as a teacher, go into the school system. But currently, I'm an entrepreneur. But you've always remained an entrepreneur, right, from beginning to end, and you've always remained true to that spirit, that dream, which I know is tough to do, especially as an artist. And so I just want to know, like, how you did that, and what gave you the gumption to be an entrepreneur your entire career.
I think, only been successful at failing upward. I had a 9 to 5 job once in the late 90s at an advertising agency. And I mean, the pay was incredible, but I just didn't have the personality to work in that kind of environment. And it wasn't the people, it wasn't the work I enjoyed, but there's a certain sense of I think you really have to be willing to be a small cog in a large system. And I think a lot of people can be totally comfortable with that, but I don't really have the training, like the emotional or social training, to be in that kind of environment for too long.
You mean by training, you mean you weren't brought up that way?
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
Um,
Are you saying you
I
blame your parents? Come on,
I
let
totally
it up.
blame my parents. I You don't know,
All
both
right.
of
Well,
them.
we're in the same camp. I blame my parents for everything as well. You and I hang out in the metaverse, and we're big fans of VR. And I know just by being, you were there a couple of years before me, but I've been there now about maybe 3 or 4 years.
The
And this VR world has changed. Like even this photo is outdated because the avatars are much better and more sophisticated now.
Yeah, I really liked this state. This is the VR world called Alt Space, and um this was I really enjoyed this style of when I first got involved in alt space, which is only like a year before you. The avatars were incredibly primitive. As I was going through my photos, I can send you the what the avatars look like before, and there was hardly any personalization. You had like
Right,
two
right.
shirts you could pick from, and you did have a couple of skin tones, but you didn't have mustaches and overalls and hoodies and toques. Um,
That's pretty close to us. Hey, you can see it.
well, I think it represents a sort of in a personality kind of way. Certainly the
And
attitude.
you know what I found interesting is that people in VR usually make their avatar to look exactly like themselves. Like you have the option to do anything you want, and it always turns out that people they feel like they're cheating themselves if or cheating others if they don't make an exact representation of themselves.
Yes, but do you remember when we started to meet up with people who had those women who
Oh
had those
yes.
custom dresses and the
Yeah, somebody
guys?
figured out how to cash in and sell people outfits outside
Yeah.
of the menu. Yeah.
And do you remember how inferior that
Oh
made us
yeah,
feel?
yeah. Just like in real life, we were like wearing burlap potato bags compared to
Yeah,
them.
they're wearing Armani and
Yeah, yeah.
Balenciaga.
Well, in any case, my point is this is another kind of feature of your career that you said yourself, and you enjoyed green screen because it allowed you to kind of create worlds. But then in the VR, like you're literally a world builder. And to prove this, I'm going to show the audience the world that you constructed for me, for my debating purposes. And this world is called Rhetorical Fortress. It was once in alt space, but now it will be in where?
A spatial IO.
Okay.
Welcome to Debating Edge.
Very exciting. I love this
Today, we're
world.
all together in a virtual fortress on the internet, and we can communicate with people in any continent instantaneously.
All right, we get the picture. What is it like to create a world? Does that tickle you pink? Is that right up your alley? Is that something you want to do more of?
You know, when I create worlds for video or for theater, the audience is only seeing like a small part of what had to be designed to make that world complete. But in VR, everything that you've created in that world is available to be explored or seen.
All right.
And
I want to also say your career, because it's been so unique, has actually led you to some unexpected places like this. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about this. What's going on here?
oh, oh, thank you. That's a nice photo. That is, it's either Kangik Sujuak or it's Kujuak, but this is in the Arctic, north of northern Quebec. And I was invited by the circus group that I work with to be like a videographer and to do projections for their circus show. And I also ran some t-shirt workshops at night. But that was a wonderful experience, and I luckily I got to do it twice just before the pandemic shut everything down, and we worked with Inuit youth
Uh-huh.
around the age like 16 to 20, and they were flown in from all of the smaller communities around Kuujjuaq. And one thing about this photo, you see that there's ice and a big iceberg in the back, but that photo was taken on the first day of summer.
Oh, interesting. Are you ready to start our first activity of the day?
Yes, I am.
All right. Yes.